On today's Kirkwood and Dunn, ESPN has fired up their propaganda machine and made sure that they subsidize the SEC's schedule all season long by overranking every SEC team, allowing all 16 teams to be in the top 20 in strength of schedule, because that's what ESPN does to make sure their TV product stays into the conversation all year long, even though they don't do anything in the postseason. Tim and I talk about that. We talk about Monshun Sales, recruitment, as well as a lot of fan reactions this week that we cover at the end. Shout out to you guys for commenting and replying. It means a lot to us. Be sure to keep doing that, as we love to talk about it on air. It's Tim's birthday week. Wish him a happy birthday. Let's go.
Powered by Riverside.
We are less than 2 months away from Indiana football kicking off the first game. Football season is just barreling towards happening and being live, and we have so much to talk about with that, which means that ESPN takes the time to insert themselves into the conversation by releasing propaganda for their largest rights holder, that is the Southeastern Conference. Tim, the FPI rankings were released this week, and the internet reacted with anger, vitriol, flabbergastness.
The internet
not
that is
shock.
part of the internet that is part of the ball knower community, as we are here on this podcast, acted with vitriol. The internet that's part of the Southern Defiance organization trying to secede from the rest of the country acted with a yep, this is about right, because they had all 16 SEC teams were in the top 20 of the FPI
Strength of
rankings.
schedule.
Their strength of schedule. They're unbelievable propaganda from ESPN to prop up the SEC.
So let me set up what the FPI rankings are. It's index is the last word. Is it football power index? Is that all it is?
Football power. Yep. Football power index.
They should just call it that. FPI makes it sound way more intense than it actually is. But having said that, why this is important is ESPN is the rights holder for the college football playoff, which means that's why you watch Pat McAfee, Kirk Herbstreit, all these folks do the college football playoffs last year for Indiana, and not Gus Johnson, not CBS Sports, any of those things. So they actually help orchestrate. I think they have some level of the committee that is influence over the committee. Basically, the committee who chooses rankings, seeding, who gets in, who gets out, uses the FPI rankings as it's influential. It's not just Tim and I decide to put a power rankings together or do our Wednesday rankings, and then it goes out on the internet and people react to it. This ranking, like the BCS ranking at the time that we talked about in our draft with Chris and Galen, is a very influential computerized ranking. So it matters. And for them to do what they always do is why I think people are reacting so strongly.
It is literally a valid data point. There is, as much as I will want to do conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat on the the college football playoff community, they have a charter that lists out all the things that they supposedly can consider about why a team should be in or not. And ESPN's FBI ranking is legitimately one of those that is listed. This is treated as this valid and sort of thoroughly unbiased research thing that they can then use to incorporate. And of course, this is the thing that has been true in college football for a long time. Where you start the season matters tremendously. Being ranked preseason top 25 is really, really important to actually making a college football playoff. And that was a place where Indiana had to worry about, 2 years ago or last year about being ranked, in the top 20. But these things matter a ton, and it's what's going to prop up when Alabama goes 8-4 and can't beat any of their good teams in conference. they're still going to be considered like a bubble spot for the playoff because of something like this.
You are naturally rooted in bias of what was my perception of a team going into a season, and that will make or break, like, where you rise or fall people all season long. Like,
Yeah,
you just have complete doubt over if a team's, like, winning games that you thought they shouldn't be winning. Sometimes you'll give them a benefit of the doubt, like, "Oh, that's surprising." But if they lose one that you didn't think they were gonna lose, you're like, "Nope, confirmation bias. That
right.
team is going out of my ranking." And that's exactly what we see from AP voters and ESPN all season long, even though the FPI rankings are theoretically supposed to be a computerized ranking and taking human element out of it. It just is interesting. So if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, I'm sharing my screen right now to show the 2026 top 25 for ESPN FPI. For those on audio, I'll just let you, here's the top 10. Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Oregon, and Georgia in order, top 5, followed by Indiana, Miami, Alabama, LSU, and Texas Tech. Okay. That is the top 10. I will go ahead and just read these off really quick for the rest of 15. Again, we have a lot of audio listeners. Want to make sure you guys get this too. Go look it up on Twitter if you need a visual. But Texas A&M comes at 11. Then it goes Oklahoma, USC, Ole Miss, and Michigan. Tennessee, Penn State, Florida, Clemson, BYU as the rounds out the top 20. Then the last 5 are Missouri, Auburn, South Carolina, SMU, and Iowa. Tim, we're gonna go walk through some tweets here
Yeah.
with some people to like their reactions to this, but I just want to get your initial reaction to this, and we'll talk about what people are saying online.
An insane amount of SEC teams. Again, this is wild that these like analysts, everybody that is collecting a data point that ultimately is going to influence FPI because yeah, FPI can take in some stats, but ultimately it's like, well, how do you incorporate talent ranking? Well, what is talent in 2026? You and I have talked about this very much. Like it is not just 5-star rivals rankings, right? That can matter, that can be a thing, but it is over indexed probably in 2026. So Alabama at 8 is what I tweeted. I was like, this is laugh out loud funny. Like Alabama has not shown anything in the post Nick Saban era to be a top 10 team. I mean, I guess because they did win a road playoff game last year against Oklahoma, but we know how bad that Oklahoma team was. It wasn't exactly a dominant performance by Alabama. And then they got boat raced by Indiana in the Rose Bowl. You're really leaning into their new 5-star quarterback being great. And for some reason, then Kalen DeBoer sort of figuring it out with that roster to move them into the top 10. I don't know that Alabama's like the worst team in the country, but to call them a top 10 team is insane. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So then you look at like really in the bottom of the top 25. I think it was like 21 through 23. Yeah. It almost reads to me like they were just like, guys, how about let's just throw Missouri, Auburn, South Carolina. Let's just screw it. Like what? Who knows? Let's just throw it in there. And like Iowa, if I was Iowa, being 25 is almost more disrespectful than being 26. Like I'd rather you leave me out than just giving me this like handout of being ranked in the top 25. Guys, Iowa is absolutely going to finish in like the top 14 by the end of the season. They're just too solid of a football team. They're not going to lose stupid games. They're not going to, shoot themselves in the foot. They're going to be up there. So the inclusion of these, it really, especially those last 3, Missouri, Auburn, South Carolina, just feels like such a, all right, you don't even want to think about a Utah, Craig coming into the top 25. You don't absolutely want to think about Duke, Virginia, Pitt, and like any number of ACC teams to like get in there. You're not trying to put, Boise State or anything. Like this is it's a bad in my mind because it's just totally unbalanced. It's just going off of like, well, the SEC has all the talent, and that's what we have known for a decade, and that's how they made their ranking.
What's funny is if Indiana is sliding to number 6, what the FPI rankings and those that are looking at that are saying is that basically Indiana has got to replace their quarterback. They have to replace key contributors on both sides of the ball, and they're guys. I'm trying here.
They lost their quarterback coach.
Yeah,
They,
yeah, there you go. They lost their
strength and condition coach.
Yeah. Where Alabama lost their presumably first round quarterback who got boat raced in the Rose Bowl. They had a terrible offensive line that, did they have all new players this year. Like, you're totally speculating on that. That you lost your best receiver and Jeremy Bernard. It's not Ryan Williams. You never could run the ball. Your defense was pretty lackluster. So could I see Alabama actually finishing top 10? Because I think Kalen DeBoer is a good coach. Yeah, I could. I'm not saying that, but that's not what these rankings are. These rankings are what you are right now going into the season. And putting Alabama at 8 and then sliding Indiana to 6 is going, oh, Indiana, nope, they can't recover from losing all that talent. Alabama didn't really have talent, and then they lost what talent they had, and they are recovering in a big way. And it's like, this is the bias that we're talking about. But the most egregious thing on this list, in my opinion, is LSU and Auburn. I think Lane Kiffin's a good coach.
What's the difference here? Yeah.
Why is LSU above Texas Tech? Why are they above Oklahoma? Why are they above USC? Like, those teams they won last year, and they return a lot of talent. Do I think Texas Tech is a top 10 team probably by the end of the season? I have my doubts because they did lose some elite defenders on that side of the ball, the things that made them good. But, like, what is LSU? LSU, that is a brand name with a brand name coach is getting there. It's the Alabama treatment. And then Auburn? Auburn? What are they doing in the top 25? If I'm South Carolina, who's getting, again, benefit of the doubt, at least you're returning a quarterback that people somewhat like. Like, Bryce Brown comes from USF. That's Alex Golish and Bryce Brown come together from USF, and they had a decent season last season. And then so they get put up there. And then you got Florida in here too. But the point is, and I'm going to share this tweet really quick from Bud Elliott for those watching on YouTube. Vegas has these teams with higher odds to make the playoff than FPI. Okay, so FPI gives off playoff odds. Indiana at plus 16%. So again, Vegas is valuing Indiana's playoff path more than FPI is. Ole Miss at 13%, Notre Dame at 10%, Miami at 9%, Oregon at 7%, Washington at 6.5%, and Utah at 5%. Tim, tell me a common characteristic of all those teams I listed, those 7 teams, that Vegas is valuing more than the FPI.
They're mostly not SEC teams. I mean, Ole Miss is in there, but
they're mostly not SEC teams.
Yeah, the 6 of the 7 are non-SEC teams. So, yeah.
Lower is Ohio State at -7, Texas at -8, and Clemson at -9. So basically, Vegas is valuing lower, and we know that about Ohio State because Vegas has their win total still at 9.5 wins. So they are saying that they have a chance to lose games. Bud Elliott goes on, says Vegas FPI are within 5% of each other. Of the 16 teams where Vegas is at least 2.5% points higher, 3 are SEC, 4 are ACC, 5 are Big 10, and 3 are Big 12. 8 teams, Vegas gives a better shot in the FPI ranking. 6 of the 8 play a single non-conference opponent ranked in the top 20. The 2 who do, Miami, Notre Dame, who play each other. So basically what Bud is saying from the FPI rankings and the difference of what Vegas. So what Vegas is going to represent in this discussion, perception going into it, is that where people, in my opinion, where people are saying that the non-SEC teams are going to do well is where FPI is not counting that at all in terms of where the FPI rankings. So if you're going to say, which we'll get to some tweets later, well, the Big 10 is dog doo-doo at the bottom because they have 18 teams and they, the last 7 teams are terrible. Then you're saying, okay, then Vegas thinks that's going to lead to more teams from the Big 10 getting into the playoffs because they're going to win more games according to that. And then guess what? They're going to have a better shot to win the national championship because you got more teams, you got more bites at the apple or at the cake. I don't know what analogy I should put there.
Well, and ultimately this is just like, this would kind of make some sense when you're trying to do off-season, preseason really projections if it were 2022. But all we've seen for the last 3 years is the Big Ten win the national title. And for those teams to be doing well in the playoffs and for the SEC to lose and to not come up to snuff. Because if you're talking about the bottom of the SEC being harder or better teams, then you would go, okay, then even a like 9-3 Georgia, for example, they would lose more because these games are just harder, but they're still so good. Except when they get to the playoffs, then they're not very good. We've now seen that for 3 years. We are actually clearly in a new era, but yet old habits die hard. Like the way these things come about and people's reflexes on this is to just go, well, I don't know. Auburn had a bunch of guys at that elite camp back in 2022. They're juniors now. They should be good. And it's like, no, they're not, guys. Like there are other ways to win college football games. And just because some of those Auburn kids might end up going to the NFL more so than, kids at Indiana or at Michigan or Iowa, doesn't mean that they're going to win college football games. These are two independent things, and too long, because they've been highly correlated, people have used that as their reflex, and it's just not going to be useful going forward.
Brooks Austin, who sucks at the teat of the Southeastern propaganda for the clicks that come with it, put out a tweet defending this. Fun facts from the SOS. All 16 SEC members inside the top 20 of the strength of schedule. That was Tim was referring to earlier. And if you remember right, strength of record and strength of schedule are key metrics that we will talk ad nauseum during the season. Big 10 ranges from 8th at Ohio State to 62nd at Penn State. Big 12 ranges, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? No one cares about the Big 12 and ACC. Okay. So he said, what I love most about the bias allegations is the fact that ESPN is the right holder for 3 of the 4 leagues. So basically, he's showing that he's an idiot because the ACC and Big 12 make the ESPN like $0.
Right.
Like, that's
they
not,
could care.
That's like not a driver. And they share with the WB
those
for the
rights
ACC
often.
and the Fox. Yeah. But this is the main tweet. This is the money tweet, people. Brooks Austin says, let's get ahead of this. Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State are as good as, if not better than every team in the sport. Thanks, Brooks. But you're an 18-team league with 7 member schools ranked 60th, 61st, 63rd, 64th, 65th, 67th, and 71st. Tim, it is circular reasoning constantly about the SEC. The SEC is good because they play the SEC.
Right,
the SEC
because we said the SEC was good.
It's because the SEC is good. Who's to say those 60th teams, the 74th team, who says that they're poorly ranked or like they're ranked too low? Because you gave Alabama, LSU, Auburn, and Missouri even the benefit of the doubt that they were going in Florida, that they're going to be better than they were last year, even though it was proven they weren't that good.
Right. This is Alabama before the Rose Bowl chirping strength of schedule, strength of schedule, strength of schedule, as if that was some indicator of them being good. And it wasn't. They lost 38-3 in the Rose Bowl. Like they looked pathetic.
But then, Tim, they're too tired. They were too tired. They were too worn down from the SEC schedule.
Yeah. It was that October matchup against South Carolina that just was too much for them. Give me a break.
So I have a connection from the conversation when I went and talked to the quarterbacks club version of the SEC, an SEC team. And the person keeps like texting the group and basically pointing out about SEC's hard schedule and like the gauntlet and all that stuff. Yeah. And I one time just kind of popped off and said, oh, I thought we were here to win national championships. So I'm fine. I'm happy with my scheduling. And then he's like, well, the conference determines the schedule. Yeah. No one asked the SEC to invite Oklahoma and Texas. No one did. Like you could have invited Cal and Stanford and had easy wins weekly. So our friends, 2 friends, friend alert, Crimson Cast. We have friends. Crimson Cast responds to Brooks Austin things we're saying. This isn't putting your thumb on the scale. It's putting your ass on the scale. Sorry, any conference that hasn't won a national championship for 3 straight seasons or even had a team in the title game has no legitimate mathematical claim to the kind of preseason SOS calculus. So, Tim, where do you parse out this idea? Because, I mean, I would probably say of the Indiana fan base, I actually fall on that the SEC might be good this year. They might win the national championship. Like, I'm not like
Sure.
oh, they're the worst conference ever. Like they are clearly, I think, on tier with the Big Ten. I think they
Yeah.
are.
Yes,
I think the Big
that's
Ten's
fine. Yes.
the Big Ten's depth is underrated and the SEC depth is overrated. But I think that they meet closer in the middle. It's not like it's like, well, if Big Ten or SEC is overrated and the Big Ten's underrated, and I'm showing my hands for those on audio, that they
there we
flip
go.
completely. Like, I think it's more like this than it is like completely switch
Well,
around.
and it's we are talking about here ultimately is, as you said, a thing that we have alluded to in the past and will ultimately throughout the course of this season is not really strength of schedule, but strength of record. And this is where Indiana ended up being number one because strength of record is ultimately going, all right, even if you play bad teams, are you kicking their ass? Are you, or like, what are you doing in your performance relative to that team? And that's strength. And that's where Indiana shined and where everything else shined. It's this notion that they're taking a look at the middle of the conference and or the bottom of the conference and going, well, because we think those middle and bottoms are better than other conferences' middle or bottoms, maybe that means the top is better. And that's just the dumbest logic I've ever heard of. Like, why Ohio State is worse because they play Northwestern or Purdue's bum ass? Like, okay. You guys are also playing Middle Tennessee in the middle of November. Like, I get it, but the reality is that college football teams, especially even within the top 25, there's a big gap there between them. Like my real actual big takeaway about the ESPN FPI top 25 or looking at the season is that top 7, when you include Miami, they had Miami at 7. To me, that feels like a gap. Ohio State, Texas, SEC, Notre Dame, Oregon, Georgia, SEC, Indiana, Miami. I feel pretty reasonably good about those 7 teams making the playoffs, being more or less viewed as title contenders the entire season. We'll see who jumps up above who, how they, Ohio State, Texas play each other week 2. Like there's going to be a loss in there for one of them. But like, to me, that's a gap. And then you're talking about a lot of teams with a lot of question marks that, yeah, they've got some talent, but I have no idea how it's going to shake out. I would be pretty surprised if like Texas A&M has another undefeated regular season type run. Oklahoma has question marks. USC has question marks. LSU has a lot of question marks. Like, I just think there's an actual pretty big tier gap between the top 7 or so teams and everybody else in college football. So I don't understand how you get to this point where you're driving all of your arguments about how good an Auburn might be, which therefore means Alabama and LSU might be good. That's just dumb logic.
You know who is sitting here sipping his coffee after the meet and greet time at church and is just enjoying that no one is talking about how highly overranked they are? That's the Clemson Tigers and Davos winning.
Okay, I was like, we could go so many ways about who is leaving the church service this morning.
Because there are so many SEC teams that are drawing attention that no one's talking that Clemson is still top 20. People are still considering Clemson top 20.
Yeah. That's just again, so many people in college football are late to letting go of their foundational beliefs. They're giving teams the benefit of the doubt, much like many people believed in the Kansas City Chiefs last year, making the playoffs and maybe going on a Super Bowl run. Nope, they were wrong. Who was right on that? TB Hoosiers called that out preseason, that those things weren't going to work out. So I've got a similar feeling about the SEC teams this coming year.
So let me share my last tweet I'm going to share from another friend, Chris Drew. Chris had an amazing episode of Signal Loss about this. You go check it out from Friday, but he talks about this, and I think this is important for a reminder to people. I don't know who needs to hear this. ESPN SOS relies on their FPI rankings, what we just talked about. This was their FPI before last season. So on
Yeah.
the screen right now, it shows the top
Pre-Indiana winning the
25.
title.
Yeah. Let's see. Alabama was top. Texas, who didn't even make the playoff, was number 1. Penn State, we know how that ended, was number 5.
Tennessee.
Let's see. Tennessee
Yikes.
was 10. Clemson, 11. Auburn, 14. LSU, 12. Okay. Nebraska showing out at 25.
Arkansas is 22nd.
Arkansas
is 22nd.
Yeah,
That's
Kansas
hilarious.
State. I love Kansas State, but they were terrible last season. So notice Indiana was missing even after a 10 win in the playoffs, which I think is a great point. Again, going back to our beginning of this conversation, no benefit of the doubt. So Chris ends it with people pretending like preseason ESPN strength of schedule is an indication of conference depth or talent are just spitting on you and telling you it's raining. So just another explanation point to what Tim is talking about, that the SEC people who are shilling for them, Brooks Austin, are going, look at their depth. Look at the FBI ranking. Look at where the Big Ten has their bottom 7 teams. That means the SEC is so much deeper. But again, you put Auburn in the top 25 to make sure Alabama and LSU are juiced in your FPI rankings.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss. So, Tim, we got to talk about it. We're just going to lean into this, and I don't even care. I don't even care if we have egg on our face that this gets clipped. You're not going to be on Wednesday's episode, so we have to talk about this with you. You have potential to have one of the best birthdays, would you say ever? I think ever, actually.
Oh, yeah.
As Monshun Sales on Friday, July 17th, announces that he is going on the Pat McAfee show to announce his decision. He's come down to LSU, Texas, Ohio State, and Indiana, and he's going to announce it. This drops. I want to get your reaction to this first because I have a lot of thoughts.
A huge week for TB Hoosiers. I am playing a road game this week, doing a little vacation, 40th birthday coming up. It's going to be a sneak peek into Tim's takes later on this episode. But the fact that Monshun Sales is announcing not only, on my birthday for me, and yes, is that a little weird that maybe a 40-year-old man is like very invested into what a 17-year-old college junior or high school junior about to start his high school senior season is going to do for college? Yeah, that's not great. But listen, I don't tweet at recruits, so it's fine. It's totally fine. But listen, I think you and I and everybody else on Indiana Twitter immediately said, like, well, the fact that he's going on McAfee, this has to be he's going to Indiana, right? Because you don't go on McAfee and then be like, Roll Tide or Hook 'em Horns. Like, if he goes on McAfee and then commits somewhere else, that's a bad look. So I'm reading into this being on McAfee as basically the leading indicator. I would guess, too, because we talked about this last episode, about Wilt Fong's report that Texas was making a late surge for Monshun Sales as the last little bit of like leverage play out of the Monshun Sales camp to Indiana. Basically, like, you better have that money up and tight. The duffel bag better be full. Like, it's going to be this number, right? Because if you don't, I'm going to go flip right now to go Texas and get that bag. Don't come to me at the last minute and go, hey, actually, we're only going to do X number or something else. So I felt like that Texas news was Indiana still in the lead, last minute leverage play, just in making sure, doing contract negotiations, basically, because that's really what this is. It's contract negotiations. And then the McAfee indicator being like, all right, it's done. It's cooked. I'm going to be really upset if it's not. And you know what? Good thing I'll be out celebrating my birthday, and I will be taking in a bunch of Miller Lights to drown my sorrows or celebrate one way or the other.
Yeah, I think there's so one, I left an omission. I didn't include Alabama in my final list. And I think Alabama is definitely a player here with Alabama. It's Alabama, LSU, Texas, Ohio State, and Indiana. And Ohio State recruiting people are like, Ohio State's not in this. Like, they are they're out of this. So it's really those other 4 that was considered. LSU, there was another article that LSU might be a dark horse, that they came out late, receiver U, whatever. But it's really been Alabama, Indiana for the majority of the recruitment. Back in January, Steve Wiltfong had switched his crystal ball ranking to Alabama. And then in May, he switches it to Indiana. And Tim, I think you hit the nail on the head. He's an Indianapolis kid who Lawrence North has been a huge, impactful high school program for Indiana, even prior to Signetti and the Signetti era with Omar Cooper Jr. and Davion Chandler, right? 2 receivers. Like, they are the Lawrence North pipeline is legit.
Shout out
and
East Side.
something that is huge for Indiana moving forward. It would be a PR disaster for him to choose to go
Absolute
on McAfee
disaster.
and then announce something else. Now, am I going to be tweeting at him mad or anything? No, absolutely not. And you all shouldn't either if he goes somewhere else.
Correct.
But someone asked me my confidence level yesterday. I honestly put it about 90%. And the reason why I put it at 90% is the McAfee factor. And the wind has been blowing in Indiana's direction. You've seen a lot of crystal balls, pipeline, like people indicating that it's there. I also think Monshun Sales understands what he will be to Indiana. The first consensus 5-star plus player ever to recruit to Indiana or to commit to Indiana. I think that means something. The kid has a high social media presence. He's going on McAfee. He likes the attention.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in a bad way. You want your receivers liking attention. I think he understands. Who's your review? Our friend, another friend, talked about Monshun Sales blocking and like special teams play. Monshun Sales retweeted that. He's proud of what he's doing there.
Monshun Sales as a safety is pretty funny.
Yeah. We talked about last episode that Monshun Sales is not necessarily an indicator that Indiana's going to start landing a bunch of 5-star recruits. I think he is unique in this factor. But the fact that he's unique is going to draw attention.
He raises the opportunity that next year maybe there's a 5-star. Maybe, right? Or at least like in the next 2 years, there's another sort of consensus 5-star that comes through. The interesting thing to me, because I'm with you, I'm basically at like a 95% confident now that Indiana will be the choice on Friday. Is Indiana the choice if Omar Cooper doesn't go in the first round of the draft? Like if Omar Cooper slides, whatever, and it's not, sliding is maybe not even the right term, but just the way the draft shook out, if he ends up going 48th instead of 28th or whatever he went, is Indiana in this place that they are? I don't know that they are, truly. I think it's a totally different question. But I think the fact that it is Omar Cooper from Lawrence North getting into the first round of the NFL draft, going from being like a 3-star kind of recruit to that, Elijah Surratt also kind of getting drafted, later on in the 4th round, I think gave Monshun Sales probably the real confidence to go, all right, no, I think it could happen there. I don't know that he's committing to Indiana on Friday if Omar Cooper is a 2nd round pick.
Yeah, and I think that's, and honestly, this is a small factor, but remember when we were debating, should you play Davion Chandler in the Purdue game? Because it would have burned his red shirt, which ironically now wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
Which we talked about, maybe the coaching staff knew like the 5-5 was probably coming. And so like, who cares? But Davion Chandler had that huge play late in the Purdue game. That's like, and huge in the fact that it didn't matter in the game because Purdue was basically dead. But like, he catches the ball and goes 70 yards from Alberto Mendoza when he scores a touchdown. And it's like, okay, true freshman Davion Chandler, who definitely played with Monshun Sales. I don't know if Omar Cooper actually got like snaps with Monshun.
I don't think so.
But Davion Chandler did. And like seeing his teammate out there doing that and like his development. Like remember when Fernando came and he talked about, and he's now come out and said he took less money than what Miami and Georgia were offering in NIL money because he had seen the development that Alberto Mendoza had gone through. Yeah. Like, I think Monshun Sales probably has watched Davion Chandler on the field in the Purdue game, the Maryland game, and also just been around him and been like, man, that guy's getting better. Just think
Yeah.
about like his natural ability, what Monshun Sales can do, which is what Fernando Mendoza did. And those factors all play a part. So of Texas, LSU, and Alabama, because we're throwing out Ohio State because Ohio State people seem to be like they're out of it. Who do you think is the biggest threat?
Texas to me is the biggest threat. That had to be. I very much believe Will Fong's report last week about Texas sort of making a late surge, and it's Texas is the threat because they have the money. I don't like the actual Wilt Fong report. If you watched it on YouTube, was like, "Oh, the Steve Sarkisian offense is really friendly to wide receivers." And it's like, bro, this is college football with a 5-star wide receiver. Like that guy's gonna get fed the ball no matter what. It's okay. He's not trying to get to that point. I think it's just because Texas has the money, and Texas would happily swoop him up and go, "Yeah, sure, okay, we'll pay you pretty close to what Indiana was, or something like that." Right along the lines, we know Alabama is like low key poor. Like Alabama does not have that money like they think they should, right? Because that's what we see from every fan on the message boards is, oh, if he wants to go get paid, fine, go to Indiana. If he wants tradition and to represent a historic program, he should come to Tuscaloosa. Like, give me a break. While there are factors, and we've talked about it because you're big on like we need better facilities, there are other things to consider, but much like anybody searching for a job, the first thing in like 80% of it is, well, how much are you going to pay me? Because if this number is wildly off base, then there's not really a reason to be diving into the other things. So to me, I would say Texas is the biggest factor because if the money bag just shows up at the doorstep, it might be signed, sealed, delivered.
Let's not forget the last time that Indiana went head to head with Texas over money.
Oh, yep.
Was Bray Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas was trying to get Bray Lynch, who is from Texas, to transfer back home, and threw a bag at him, and Indiana kept him. And Bray Lynch is either going to be our starting center or our starting right guard coming into the season. So I think that Indiana's got the resources. Now, we've talked a lot about, I think Indiana would rather pay a Bray Lynch than they would a incoming recruit. That is their strategy. But Monshun Sales is a different, very different type kid. Now, I do want to ask you from a Monshun Sales point of view. Let's say money is all equal.
Yep.
And so you're looking at your PR and your rise of PR. Like taking the Indiana, being the first 5-star, whatever, joining, hopefully coming off of Indiana, winning another national championship or doing very well. And you're coming in and you are the first 5-star that they've ever had, which means you will have a ton of attention. Like
pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. But also like if in this day and age, go take that attention. Because guess what? If it doesn't work out at Indiana, you can go transfer somewhere else. like that's a weird thing now. It's like, or if let's say Kurt Signetti, God forbid, retires or leaves, or Mike Shanahan leaves, or like they regress, you just go somewhere else. Like it's not like if you're really good, you can go to any of those other schools again. They're gonna take you, and you'll probably get more money than they're offering as a first year player. So I think it's like a no brainer. That's why my confidence is at 90.
I agree. I think this is going to be a great day for Indiana coming up on Friday.
Tim, I think if Monshun Sales' nickname, as Alabama reminds us, is Bama, because he was born in Alabama, moved to Indianapolis. If Alabama misses out on this kid, should Alabama fire Kalen DeBoer? Because it's the only positive thing that they have right now is that they keep getting like good recruits. Like even though they're not as good as they were, but they keep getting some. They get embarrassed at the Rose Bowl and they lose to Indiana on a kid with the nickname Bama. I think we should be talking about Kalen DeBoer's buyout, don't you?
I regret not taking Kalen DeBoer in that college football coaching firing that we talked about, because I was looking earlier at the Alabama schedule after our discussion earlier about FPI and everything else. Alabama has a pretty tough stretch in the middle of their conference season where they go like Georgia, A&M, Tennessee, and then like somebody else. I'm like, they could lose 4 straight conference games, and then it's November 8th, and then Kalen DeBoer's out. And they could still like end up finishing 8-4 just because, but like they have a middle part of their schedule that is brutal for them. I think that will be what does them in. I'm more like I forgot about Monshun Sales' nickname being Bama. I low key want to keep that. I honestly like. I want him to be starring for Indiana. I want Josh Hoover or whoever, not Josh Hoover because he's gonna graduate. I want Tyler Cherry to be throwing him touchdown passes, and I just want to be yelling, "Bama, Bama, Bama to the end zone!" anytime. Like, I actually don't want to change his nickname at all. I want it to stay Bama, just so I can then throw it right back in the face of the Crimson Tide fans. That would be the best thing. For a second I was like, oh man, that's a terrible nickname. I'm like, actually, that's the best nickname because we just get to throw it right back in their face.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. That would be awesome. Like the "We Want Bama" chants, but it's
Right.
actually
It's
about
just
our
the new
player.
modern version. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
actually
because
we
like,
just
sure,
steal
it's
all
not
of
"We
your
Want Bama"
recruits.
anymore. It's like, okay, I guess we'll take Bama. Like, we'll take an easy win, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, listen, I want to yell because Kurt Signetti is building the next Nick Saban style dynasty. So I'm just gonna start calling ourselves like the new age Bama. That's what it is. We are Bama Bloomington. Like there's something in there. I got to get my marketing team from the Kirkwood and Dunn Enterprises on that. But like Bama Bloomington is absolutely, I think, gonna make it onto some merch or something soon.
If Kurt Signetti wins a national championship this year, are we allowed to just no longer say it's a Nick Saban, he's the next Nick Saban or style dynasty, but like he is Kurt Signetti, he's the most unique coach that's ever, like, he already is on some level, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of influence over Nick Saban. But like if he wins the national championship this year, right? Like it's Kurt Signetti. Like it's not Nick. There's no Nick Saban has to give a caveat. He's the next. He is him. He is Kurt Signetti.
You're getting into legitimately Kurt Signetti in 3 years, going from not even a power four head coach, but like whatever, to legitimately one of the 5 greatest coaches of all time. And you're just kind of debating semantics about eras and brands or like dynasty runs. We'll have our loser Notre Dame friends chatting us about like the Four Horsemen in the 30s when they were playing the Michigan YMCA, Little Lost Boys of the Woods. Like, what are we talking about here? But that's really what if we get to that point at the end of this year, that's what we will be talking about is like Newt Rockney versus Kurt Signetti. And my God, I cannot wait for the engagement online when I have that debate.
Okay, so let's get into talking about some fan reactions to things we've been talking about, things said on the internet, not media types. Tim, don't you think people who are listening to this podcast should like and subscribe this video on YouTube
Absolutely.
or follow along on Spotify or click on Apple Podcasts? I was just talking to Tim before this episode. We like to pull back the curtain a little bit. June was our highest listening month ever, which is insane because January, I never thought we'd actually get there with national championship, but more
Right.
of you are listening. And then last episode was our highest ever non-draft or non-interview because when you do the drafts, you do the interviews, we pull in the audiences of whoever we're doing that.
Yeah.
This was just a standalone Tim and I talking, and hilarious. It was probably our worst technical difficulty episode ever. Like that was so frustrating.
Yeah. Your internet went out. Like it was bad.
I was like, this episode stinks. Like I was like trying to edit it, like cut some things because my internet kept going out. My mic was like frazzled at the end. Like I couldn't put some overlays over it. And then we did it. So with that being said, if you're still watching this right now and got through our Bama discussion, Monshun Sales, all that stuff, like, and you're watching, click like or subscribe. It really does help us out a lot. Okay, let's talk about message board geniuses, which is one of my favorite accounts on Twitter. For those who aren't online as much as us, it is someone who goes around and clips message boards from the pigs of the world of all these other teams. So Army Dog MD comments, Signetti couldn't win consistently in the SEC. The downside of this conference is by the end of the season, UGA's team is so broken, they play less than optimally in the playoffs. I think Indiana is gifted an easy schedule with a few tests thrown in so they can grow, but their shtick wouldn't be the same if they were the SEC. Tim. I told you that's the type of messages I get in like a personal group chat. This guy's going online. I, I don't
Open
even
the
know.
schools, man. Open the schools. I'm going to repeat that line from COVID. Like the lack of critical thinking is astounding with these people on these message boards. Like, what are you talking about? Their shtick wouldn't work. We just drum rolled
Let's
Alabama
stick.
in the Rose Bowl. Like this, like SEC. Oh, they would never last. Oh,
I know.
Georgia is just a broken team. No, Gunnar Stockton sucks. That's the problem.
Yes.
Like, ooh. And then all of a sudden, we started paying players too. And guess what? We got some pretty good ones. Like, this is just, they can't accept a new reality. And they're just going back to like a soft schedule. Indiana had like a pretty high like strength of schedule last year. This was not 2024. Indiana did have a pretty easy schedule. That's fine. We acknowledge that. Okay. But like 2025, Indiana had a pretty reasonably difficult schedule and then just truck rolled everybody in the playoffs. So I don't know how you get back to, well, they had an easy schedule. That's not, what are you talking about? This is not reality. What are you doing?
I tweeted yesterday, I love people that respond to my tweets. Like I use sarcasm a lot and I bury the lead a lot, but I did this unpopular take Saturday. It's reasonable for people, Georgia fans in particular, to want Kirby Smart as their head coach over Cignetti. He's younger. He's had sustained success. And this is where I think a lot of even Indiana fans stopped reading my tweet because they immediately were like, this is ridiculous. Cignetti, blah, blah, blah. And I put on my third point was he treats the quarterback position like a participation trophy. Like Kirby Smart, like I'm poking fun at Georgia fans acting like they would take like Kirby Smart has the best roster from 1 to 85 in probably sports. But the man in the sport, the man can't figure out the quarterback position.
Not at all. And not even remotely close. Like
no. They should have the best quarterback every single year with as much offensive line protection there is, running backs, white tight ends. I mean, just completely. But he continues to keep Mike Bobo and whatever quarterback. And shout out to Stetson Bennett. But Stetson Bennett's a good example of like lucking into a quarterback who could run your system really well. And also like an NFL coach, Todd Monken, who was an offensive coordinator for you. Like that's what it took for Kirby to win national championships.
They had 15 players in their two deep on defense that are in the NFL right now. So like, okay, you rolled out basically what would be the worst defense in the NFL at the time, but like whatever. And yeah, they kicked ass and Stetson Bennett made a few plays. So like you won a title. Great, cool. Like you got the title, flags fly forever. But that's what you had to do. You had to like have literally the best defensive line in like college football history and then have their backups also be like the second best defensive line in college football history. And that's how you won a title. Like I'm all for, listen, yes, Kirby Smart, great coach, top 3 coach.
He's a great coach.
Truly fantastic. But you are absolutely right that like there is a problem here. And his best, I mean, Carson Beck, I guess, like pre-injury was like their best. And you and we fans of this show know how we feel about Carson Beck. It's just not going to be there. So I would be taking Ryan Day and Kurt Cignetti over Kirby Smart any day of the week. And it's just not going to be it.
There is, every joke has some truth in it. Like I do think if I'm a Georgia fan, of course, I'm fine with Kirby. Like I'm not like saying fire Kirby and get Cignetti. Like that is not where I would be at if I were a Georgia fan. But if I'm starting a program today and could pick any coach in the country, I'm taking Cignetti. Like that's the point. Like because of the third point there, like Cignetti's quarterback development, Tim has been on this constantly. Every time we talk about this, it's better than any coach in the country right now. Ryan Day has not figured that out. Lincoln Riley forgot how to really develop quarterbacks. Yeah. And so Cignetti is the best in the country at the moment. We'll see what he does with Josh Hoover. But even Sonny Dykes this week at Big 12 Media Day, we ripped Sonny Dykes constantly. during the offseason for his comments on Josh Hoover turning over the ball. And Cignetti came out and said, or Sonny Dykes came out and said, Cignetti was right. Like,
yeah,
if you are not trying to score 53 points a game, like
turns out it's
really
a lot
helpful.
easier.
So even
it's just like some people don't realize, like, oh wait, the quarterback position is like really important to winning football games. Like, I'm telling all the listeners right here, don't look at me as an Indiana fan. Listen to me right now as a Chicago Bears fan. Okay, I've watched nothing in the 40 years of my life except bad quarterback play until last year with Caleb Williams, and it still wasn't even all that good. He just made some spectacular plays. I know how important a quarterback is to winning games and winning titles. Like, this is what matters the most. And Cignetti has proven it for like 6 straight years. He has not missed yet. Maybe he misses on Josh Hoover, but he actually hasn't missed yet on getting high level quarterback play out of anybody that he brings into his system immediately.
Shout out to our listeners. Again, last episode was really good. There was some great Polly Walnuts on YouTube commented about some 1980s heartbreak going up to Michigan State, building up hey, we're going to do this. And then they let down. And there's so much like old era Indiana football, even old era Indiana basketball, I'm sure broke the hearts of people. So shout out for you guys. Like Tim and I, we said before, those rankings we put together, it was like an hour before the episode, I said, hey, Tim, can we do this? I forgot to set our rankings. So we were missing things, which caused us to have some pretty funny reactions. Ben Levitt on X came to us and said, I love when you guys tag us on Twitter because you're probably going to get us to comment on it on the episode. He said, unless I missed it, that kick, the kick was good. Pinstripe Bowl loss was not even an honorable mention on here. Makes me question a lot of things about my podcast listening habits. Shout out, Ben. Tim, as I broke our own rule, which the rule, if you don't remember about ranking, is that when we put out rankings, there are rankings. I accidentally threw you under the bus for not mentioning that because it was before my Indiana fandom, football attention fandom. But Tim, do you want to publicly address us missing the kick was good?
Ben brings up a good point. I'm trying to categorize how excited I was at that time. That's the thing, right? It's like, to be disappointed doesn't just have to be a loss or a bad loss. You have to have thought that this was a momentum building, things were going well. The team had very high expectations. I didn't have super high expectations for the 2016 Indiana football team. I was mildly pleased that Kevin Wilson had kind of gotten us to be 10% more competitive than the Bill Lynch era. But we got a little creative on offense. The defense was still largely pretty bad. And we never felt like we were going to have a game where we could beat an Ohio State. Even the most perfect version of that team was not going to do that. Yeah, and even though, yes, Xander Diamant had a nice little run there for a minute, and we were kind of leading a little bit in a game against Ohio State, it just never really felt like that. So to me, when we lost the Pinstripe Bowl, that was just more about me trying to learn about the parallax effect and the angle of cameras and what is the ruling of the ball and the percentage of the ball that needs to be either within the upright or over the upright. And it would have been nice to have won a bowl game because there was not a ton of history of that. But I was just, it was not on my radar as a disappointing thing. I was not disappointed in Indiana football when we lost the Pinstripe Bowl. That was just sort of well, all right, that's kind of where we got to, and I moved on.
And that plays in well. Longtime listener Peter Schomburg tweets out at us. Kirkwood Dunn guys love the pod. This may be for TB Hoosiers, but I would love some mid 2000s football talk on the pod about games, guys from eras like beating down Iowa in 06, Kellen Lewis, James Hardy, Tracy Porter, etc. Feels like a lot of these have been lost to time. And Tim is very open, and I will add for Tim's world. Tim was blacked out most of those eras during his undergrad. He said on the disappointment, the reason why you chose a lot of basketball is because you didn't go to a lot of football. That's why you shout out the student section now. Tim was what we make fun of, the basketball only fandom.
Yeah. I said it on the podcast. Where are my people in the tailgating fields? Where am I with shots of Fireball, Miller Lights, like you name it? That was my experience there. Um, that's a really good point that he brings up, because I don't know how to classify that era of Indiana football. It's just so weird with the passing of Terry Hepner. Like that '07 team was built off of basically magical spirits to get us to winning a bowl game. And if you remember it well, I do, because I did, was like, they're kind of competitive. This is nice. We're like winning one for Hep. And Hep was like on campus trying to drum up energy. God bless him. But we were hosting Purdue for the Oaken Bucket, and we were 5-6. And it came down to the end of game Austin Starr field goal to win, to then be bowl eligible at 6-6, to make the Insight.com bowl, to then lose to Oklahoma State. I get it. It was better than the early 2000s. We were rebounding now off the Antoine Randall era, but like similar to the Pinstripe Bowl, it was like we were on the up because we went from like being 3-9 to being 6-6. Forgive me if I wasn't exactly doing backflips to get in line and get into the stadium to watch those teams. But much like you, like genuinely, I was just more interested in top level college football. I was watching Ohio State games. I was watching Georgia games. I was watching Alabama games, watching Texas games. Like I would rather be watching that than watching Indiana play Minnesota for us to go to 4-7 on the year. Like, miss me with that. I was fine.
This is why it always cracks me up that when we get shit online, like, where were you 2 years ago, or Indiana, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, we know my path here, and the late's coming in later, but going to every game once I like bought in. But there were times when I'd go to watch us play Akron and we'd almost lose, that I would have a little regret that I wasn't home watching a Saturday night game that was really, really good, because I love college football. Like that's why I gravitated. There's an argument that maybe I watched more Indiana football games than Tim did in the 2000s, even though I had no connection to them, because I was watching that ESPN2 Purdue Indiana time slot, because that was great theater back in the day when we get that ESPN2 time slot all the time. So yeah, I think it should be a challenge, honestly, Peter. I should go watch some of those. Like I think Galen has some movie archives.
Yeah, he has posted online,
and go watch some of those games just to get a feel for what it was like. It's off-season challenge for me. Maybe I'll put that on my docket next season to kind of do it, and then I'll do watch parties of watching. NC State, Indiana.
Yeah, like we're gonna watch the '92 IU versus Kentucky game, and the watch along will be like you and the 4 senior citizens that have figured out how to log on to YouTube, and that's gonna be it.
Have I ever told you my first really Indiana watch? Because I did watch the Purdue Indiana games, like again, it's noon game on the ESPN2, but like really watch them was Richard
Lego.
And Kevin Wilson against Nebraska.
And
Indiana won. Indiana beat Nebraska. I was with a Nebraska fan in Lincoln, Nebraska, watching on they have like a downtown district that Lincoln, Nebraska is actually a very cool town to go to, and you should go see it. But it's got a party district, and they had the big screen, and we were watching it. And Indiana was I was rooting for Indiana because I like watching my friends' teams lose, as you know very well. Like it's funny to watch them be miserable. So I was rooting for it. But the thing that stuck out to me was, in laughing, as that Indiana had a quarterback with the number 21.
Yes, it was so bad. And honestly, listen, no offense to Dickie Legau if he's listening. Genuinely, I really don't. This is going to sound like a real dig, but I hated watching that team because it really reminded me of my own high school football team my junior year. Our younger quarterback was not good or ready yet. and we were playing like a 6'6" guy who was just like kind of a pretty good athlete, but hell, he saw above the offensive line and could like throw it a little bit better than everybody else. But like I knew I was like, we're not winning sectionals this year. not with this guy back here. And watching that team was just like, Dickie Legau is not a college football quarterback. He's like a good athlete and just like bigger. And we are just like, I guess we'll just trot him out. And good on Kevin Wilson to like get some wins out of that team. But like,
They did.
What are we doing? This is not a college football quarterback. I hate watch that team so much. I just knew that there was a very, very low ceiling.
Well, it's time for everybody's favorite Kirkwood and Dunn segment.
Ready for some fiery news? Tim's here with his hot takes. He's got the takes that make you think, pushing ideas to the brink. He's got the takes that make you think, pushing ideas to the brink.
All right, it's time for Tim's takes. Tim, your take this week.
I am thinking about it might not be a ton, but there was water wasted to cool an AI computer for you to create that. And that's just always, we're never getting that water back.
That's why we have to use it. We can't get rid of it.
So we start off, I'm out in Chicago this week celebrating my birthday, having a good time. I'm going to catch some Cubs games later on, doing the whole thing. And I am officially going to be turning 40. And I was an old man before turning 40, but now I'm just ready to lean into this full bore ahead. And, much like many people, there's not a ton of sports on. So we're watching a lot of World Cup. And I'm just now at the point, eliminate all instant replay reviews. Done. I'm out. I want to go back to blaming referees for all my problems. I want to go back to, we got screwed by the refs on this call, on this thing. I honestly don't even forget even that, like replay reviews being part of like the official process with which they can change the outcome of play. I don't even show me the review on the broadcast. I don't want to watch it at all. I just want to watch it live in person, take in what I think is the real opinion about that play, and never change off of it. I want to be like everybody's mom and dad on Facebook. Like, nope, I've made my opinion. You can't tell me otherwise. I don't want evidence contrary to my baked in opinion. This is all about what I believed in the moment. I want no more replays. Done. Instant replay, out of the game. Don't even bring it up again. I've decided that the ref blew the call and my team got screwed. That's what I believe now. I'm all in on getting rid of instant replay.
So you're going farther than just replay review. You just want no more highlights during the game.
No more.
Like, don't look back at it.
I don't want it. I don't want Sports Center replaying a highlight and being like, controversial call. No more instant replay, so we'll never know. Can't change this. I don't even want that. I just want to watch the game, and then I want to argue with people at the bar or my friends or whatever else, and just like immediately say what I view as this play as the outcome is true and right. I want zero evidence to the contrary. I don't want people giving me slow-mo clips of a toe touching inbounds or not. None of that. Just watch the game and let's move on. That's what I want. Let's take it back to like 1985.
So what's funny to me is that I think soccer and baseball do the instant replay or replay review, VAR and ABS in both baseball and soccer, respectively, better than basketball and football. Basketball and football completely disrupt the flow of the game. Like it is, especially basketball. My God, it's terrible how long it takes for them to go over to the booth, to all look, to talk to the coaches, blah, blah, blah. Like it ruins it. But soccer has weirdly become worse in a different way. And the fact that you can't have a moment of elation, because soccer is such a rare, it's like a withholding sport. And the fact that only a few times things score, and then you're like so excited for it. but now you immediately look to see, is there VAR? And there's been so many goals that have been called back because of VAR, which to Tim's point is probably making the right call, but it's like, what's the spirit of this thing? But on some level, what it makes me think of is we didn't have VAR until like 2020, 2021 or something like that, or maybe late 2010s.
Yeah.
How many goals shouldn't have counted in the 200 years of soccer? Because they call back so many goals.
Like, it was sad news this week that we learned that many MLB umpires, especially CB Buckner, are going to be retiring now. That was the light of my life, to be yelling about CB Buckner and pitches and whether it was a ball or a strike. I'm going to be going to Wrigley Field on Friday. I'm going to be in the bleachers. So if you see TB Hoosiers and want to buy me a beer, come on aboard. I'm going to be 400 feet away from the plate, and I want to be yelling, "Open your eyes, ump. That's a ball," or "That's a strike." Like, that's the spirit. That's why I love watching sports. I want no more replays. Get away from this. That's how I want to live my life. Totally without new information or changing my mind. No, I just want to set an opinion and take it to my grave. That's where I'm at.
How many baseball games you going to this week?
It might just be the 2 because it's All-Star week. So they just start the
so
season
2 games
on Friday. Yeah.
God, I sure hope you're still in a relationship by the end of this week. She's seen you at Big Ten games. And then, of course, that was like one moment that she could probably be like, wow, this is this is the biggest moment in Indiana football fandom at the time. And so like his over the top reactions of being in the fetal position next to me at Lucas Oil Stadium makes sense. Regular season Cubs game in the bleachers and Tim's losing his mind at somebody.
You're at where the Cubs are playing the Minnesota Twins on July 17th.
There's potential. This is a very sad Sunday episode after that. Yeah. Seeing that. All right. Well, it is Tim's birthday week. He's going to be off on Wednesday. We'll do something a little bit different on Wednesday for you. You can follow Tim at TB Hoosiers. You can follow me at ST McGee. Happy birthday, Tim. 40th birthday. You got this. Hopefully Monshun Sales gives you a really good gift. The Cubs win. You have a good time in Chicago. All that fun stuff. You can follow Kirkwood and Dunn at Kirkwood and Dunn on all platforms. And again, our largest month listenership ever last month. And then last episode was great. And so thank you to all the listeners. We will see you, or at least I will see you on Wednesday.